Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in to this episode. My name is David Kemshall, and here I have Matt. Matt, thank you for being on this podcast.
You're welcome. Lovely to be here.
Matt, we're going to talk a little bit about mental health, which you are an expert in. And we're going to talk about why you're an expert in it.
Okay.
And we're going to get to know you a bit better as well. I would like to know a bit about you. I tell you what, if you can talk to me about, let's talk about born and raised.
Born and raised. Sounds like the start of a song, doesn't it?
In the playground is where I spent most of my days.
Born and raised in Basingstoke. Good old
You're a Basingstoke man.
I'm a Basingstoke boy.
Yes.
Born and bred. I've been here for 51 years.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah, grew up in the town, so
Yes.
I'm a towny Basingstoke boy.
Yeah.
Parents from, all my family history sits to Basingstoke. We've got long history with Basingstoke. So born and bred in the town, lived and worked sort of all over the world, actually. So it's not just Basingstoke isn't the epicenter of the world, albeit it's a home for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, moved sort of with work, albeit not to live, but traveled a lot through the world. So very worldly wise in many ways. A lot of, I guess a lot of things like everybody, as you travel, you learn. And that's been brilliant. So I've loved that part of my journey. It's been really, really powerful.
Still living in Basingstoke, did you say?
Still living in Basingstoke at the moment.
Yeah.
Just can't get myself out. I haven't quite
Trying
found
to
the
get out?
boundaries of, how far to get out. I'm moving closer towards the edge of the town. So, yeah.
Lovely. I'd like to know a little bit about your journey.
Okay.
I think a lot of the questions that we ask on this podcast is for someone to kind of let us know your journey. So, for instance, 16, 17, 18 years old, leaving school, looking at a career, whether you sort of went to further education or whether you went into full-time work. But from that point of leaving school to where you are now, sort of take me on that journey.
Well, I think I took a route that was not necessarily the normal back in the days that I left school. So I left school in 91, and I went into an accountancy apprenticeship,
Right.
which was sort of created because I'd done some work experience at a building engineering company, and I got on so well with them, and they saw me as, I'm not going to say cheap labor, but it's easy, isn't it, when you've got sort of cost constraints and the business wasn't necessarily performing so well, to bring in somebody on a very low wage. So I went in as an apprentice. I got offered the route. I was going to go to Queen Mary's College, which is a college in the town, but sort of deviated towards, well, we'll pay you £1.70 an hour, which was horrendous, and we'll also pay for you to go to college. So my journey to become an accountant began, and that was sort of where it all began. So I was an accountant. I was sort of look back fondly to those days of the apprenticeship, albeit there were some things that we were being asked to do, and I don't mean that in any illicit ways, but we were being asked to do things that definitely weren't in the sort of the scope of our role. I was working, which gave me a lot of awareness of other roles as well. I was working in a company where there was a lot of designs, and they did these CAD drawings. They had these massive printing machines to do like all the schematics and all the blueprints. And I learned how to do photocopying basically. As part of my role, which was nothing to do with accountancy. But I was coming up with these big A02s or whatever they are.
Which company was that?
I daren't divulge the name of the company.
It sounds like a company my father was at. So
it was a
I was
building engineering company called IEI.
Okay.
And the funniest thing about that, the funniest story I ever tell about that was walking past reception one day with a temporary receptionist going, EIE, how can I help you? And I just thought that stuck with me forever. It's brilliant.
I don't think they thought about that, did they?
Not really.
No.
Yeah. Almost got it right.
Yeah. Okay, so from that point and then onwards, like continue on your journey?
Yeah, so I was, I think the whole sort of journey was then about accountancy. I left there, I joined Hogg Robinson Group in Farnborough when I was about 21 years old, 22, and just finished my accountancy. So I became a qualified management accountant, CIMA management accountant. Yeah. And then I decided that I was probably in the wrong role because I lost a lot of the things I enjoyed doing as I was growing through the role, because then I was sort of office-based, doing sort of just sitting down. I'm quite animated, and I love to sort of present, and I love to talk to people. And when they sort of put you in that place where you don't have the ability to do it so much, I really struggle with that, actually. And so I chose to join a sales team within the company, of which a lot of people out there thought I was crazy. Why would you go and join sales? Why would you go into this role of, taking yourself out? But actually what was really beneficial was I understood numbers. Yeah. And so that's been a huge benefit for me throughout my career, is having an awareness and understanding of numbers. So I found something I loved. I love travel. I love working in the industry. Yeah. I love the people. And I did that for 20 years, almost 20 years. And then, well, if you want to know what happened really at the end of that career, which I call it the end of that career, before I came into this space of mental health, well-being, and all the work that I do now, I was exhausted. And that was sort of, and I know as we progress through our careers, and that's one thing I talk to a lot of people about now, as we progress through our careers, we don't always take notice of when things are starting to go wrong. And one of the things we're not very good at as a society is helping people who are struggling as things are going wrong. So when I left that career, what happened was a very quick, abrupt ending. It was almost like a crash. On a Friday afternoon, I was in America, find myself in a meeting room getting fired from my job without knowing anything was wrong. I was at my most senior point, highest salary. Everything seemed to be going okay, albeit inside, I knew I was struggling. And for those people around me who really should have given better support and care, they made that choice, which I had no say in whatsoever. To be told you're fired and then no reason cited is really hard. And that's sort of where my journey then changed totally. And I was knocked off that path. So travel now was a space that, I hated it. I hated it at that point. And I didn't want to go back and I didn't want to do anything until I found a rhythm within the new world that I work with, wellbeing, mental health and the topics. I then started to realize actually there was a real conversation around travel wellbeing. As a business traveler myself, I knew the pain that I was going through and I didn't have anybody to talk to. So, those are sort of the key points of what happened to me on that journey at the beginning. And then when I came into this space of mental wellbeing, mental health, I sort of woke up one morning in February and said, I can't do this. I can't go back and do what I've done again. I can't just keep going back and reinventing that person in that industry, in that sector. And actually, I was ashamed of myself as well. And I thought, do you know what? This has brought shame on me. My whole sort of personality in the community was questioned because people knew that I'd been fired, I guess, or who knows what the stories were out there. Didn't hear them because obviously I'd been cut off straight away. And then I just decided I would make my own thing. So you know what? Sometimes if you can't find your place, create it, right? And that's exactly what I did. And why I do everything I do now is because I don't want you to feel you're unable to talk about what's going on. And even though, we've had moments in our lives and, in our conversations together outside of this where maybe we haven't quite connected or had that, it's always knowing there is somebody there that is so important. And that's what I've created is a world where no conversation's off limits. We could sit here and talk about anything and I would not be ashamed or embarrassed to talk about it. And it's a totally different version of me than I was 10 years ago, which, we're talking about 2016 was when it all changed. And the 10 years since then have been really hard. I'm not going to pretend and sit here and go, just because I got knocked off kilter and I went and created something new. It was perfect because it's been really, really hard. But it's also been really rewarding and I've loved it. I love the ride. I love the journey. And the difference now is I'm consciously aware of, I want to learn versus I thought I knew it all. And if you change your attitude and approach to it, for me, that's what it's all about. If you go down that pathway of saying every conversation we have is a lesson, talking to you or others around me, every conversation I'm learning something. And if I can take a lesson from that conversation, which is how you're feeling right now or what's going on in your life or interesting and nice things that you're looking forward to, then actually that's a really powerful gift. Because I'm gifting myself the ability to say, I don't know it all. And I don't want to know it all. I want it to build and to grow. And my awareness of other humans now is so much higher. So hopefully that gives you an insight into my space. A lot of things, although there's so much more.
I mean, it leads on beautifully to talking about, simpler wellbeing. What was the reason behind the name and what was...
Well, I'll simplify it for you. People always get stuck on it. It's really funny because it's almost like where does the name Simpler come from? It's not a real word, albeit it does sound familiar, doesn't it? It sounds like a word like we're going to make things a bit simpler. That was the design of it. So I couldn't use the actual, the definite or the spelling as per. But I wanted to say people have pronounced it in all many different ways. I'm really impressed, by the way, that you pronounce it correctly.
Oh, thank you.
Because so many people have had it as Simpila. There was one moment I remember years ago when I first started to sort of talk about Simpler. And somebody introduced me at a conference and I come on stage and it was like, here's Matt from Simpala. And I just came on and I said, I just want to clarify one point. it's not an air base in Afghanistan, right? So this is the translation was so, oh my God. Yeah, I worry about what people think about it, but that's all it is. It's just about making things simple.
So that's obviously your company.
Yep.
Talk to me a little bit about you have a mental health podcast as well, right?
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
Yes, so I have MH2. By design, my name is Matt Holman. Mental health is MH as well. So hence the reason it's called MH2, Matt Holman Talks Mental Health.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about that was there's a couple of reasons why I created it. Firstly, it was coming off the end of COVID. So it was November of 2020, albeit we're still very much in the restrictions. And secondly was up until June of 2025, I was Samaritan, and I was Basingstoke Samaritan, very proud of the role of the Samaritans, and still continue to support them with whatever I can. I left in June of last year. But the Samaritans, what I found really fascinating was, you'd listen to a caller, you'd hear a story that they would share with you.
Yeah.
And the sad reality of that was often they'd never shared that with anybody else.
Right.
And so in my head, I was saying, well, there must be, there's millions of people out there who, if you look at celebrity podcasts, you got them all, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've got all these podcasts which are amazing and great, but often it's the same celebrity or the same person going to a different podcast to share the same story time and time and time again.
Yeah.
We all have a unique story. And
Yeah.
so I created it basically on the premise of I want to help anybody talk about whatever they want to talk about. And I don't set a rule on it. I don't say you have to tell me this or you have to. I'm very clear. It's your story. So you share with me and with the audience what you feel comfortable with. And it's fascinating. And I think I've recorded, so far, I've just recorded yesterday, launched even today. Well, we're recording this. I know it's not the same day, but a podcast on Monday of this week. I'm recording one after this podcast. I'm up to, I think this afternoon's episode will be 193.
Oh, wow.
I've got another 5 or so in the line, so waiting. I tend to do them in spurts.
Yeah.
So when my diary permits it, I'll do a few at a time, like many of us as podcasters do. But yeah, I love it. It really energizes me. And the conversations are everything. So nothing in particular, but everything is open.
Are there 1 or 2 episodes that stand out? You knew I was going to ask you
You're
this,
asking
right?
me to choose my favorite child, aren't you?
I mean, might be that it's a favorite thing because of the story, but essentially there might be something that maybe either you relate to or it's a really, upsetting story, and that's why it stuck with you. Like, is there?
Yeah. Well, you know what, you've connected something to me here, and I do feel I should share because it's a question that you've asked, which I think is really important. The podcast in itself, before I share, and it's not an easy one to share, but the podcast in itself was created to allow a safe space for anybody to talk about whatever they want.
Yeah.
And I've had some incredible conversations. I can remember, the majority of them because I was there, I was present, I was privileged to be the first person to hear that. But the one that sort of stands out to me, which is, it links into something that I'm doing a bit later in the year as well. So I hope we get the chance to talk about it. Last year, I was very privileged to be part of an event called the Baton of Hope. And the Baton of Hope is a suicide prevention, UK nationwide suicide prevention charity. And the baton came around the country and it landed in 20 locations. Basingstoke was one of the locations.
Yeah.
I was very privileged to be able to carry that baton. And following that, the baton went to Portsmouth, which is about 50 minutes or so from Basingstoke. And the host for each of the events was a local host, a personality. We had Marie in Basingstoke, and it went down to Portsmouth to somebody called Lara. And what happened was, after the event, I was very sort of keen to talk to Lara, to hear her story, because every person that created the baton had a story. Right. Or was part of the baton, had their own story.
Right.
So I reached out, we had a conversation, we recorded in November, beginning of November. And it was great because she was able to share so much information about her personal experience and the challenges that she'd had and where she was now and the plans she had moving forward, which was great. And it was brilliant. We sort of scheduled to follow up. When I came back, I was going away on holiday. And I went away on holiday and I was away for a couple of weeks. I was over in Asia. Yeah. And 2 or 3 days into that, and I'd launched the podcast a few days before I went away because I knew I was going. So I thought, get it out and people can listen. Yeah. It was so close to the baton as well. Yeah. And sadly, I got a message to say that she had taken her own life. Okay. So if you're thinking about, is there any that really stand out? That one to me was, and I know that's quite a deep thing to share, and I know that's quite, as I say, this is why it's important we talk about these topics.
Yeah.
because that was unexpected. We
Yeah.
didn't know, and if I have a memory of walking on Koh Samui Beach in Thailand, it was me listening to a podcast recording that I just put out a few days before, because I was in that. Did I miss something? Was there something I should have done? Should I have asked it? Of course, I couldn't go back and change anything at that point anyway. It was never, you can't rewind the tape and try again or ask the different question. And so, so I think, but there's been many examples, and I don't mean in that sort of situation, that's the most extreme one, but there's many examples of where somebody shared something and I've lived through something similar, or I can connect to something similar. And that's what happens actually when we allow people a safe space to do it. We hear stories, we understand perspective. I've struggled with my mental health over the years, with anxiety and post-traumatic stress, and in recent times more about neurodiversity, understanding more about those topics. And everybody's unique, and that's a beautiful thing, and it's also a challenge because it's not a simple one thing.
How do you find the strength to do that? Is it, I just couldn't, you talk about the Samaritans thing, for instance, and you have that person at the end of the phone that's in that situation, what's your approach? Is it that because you're so well educated in it that you're able to give the correct advice to kind of help that person? Where does, I guess what I'm kind of trying to say is, I just don't think that I could do it. I don't know if it's a courage. I don't even know what I'm probably trying to say, but how do you find the power to go to be that support? How do you do that?
Well, I think there's a number of things. Firstly, I would say we don't give advice, right? So as Samaritans in that world, or even in the world where I train now, mental health first aiders, the key to the kingdom is don't give advice.
Yeah.
Because I can't tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Right? You will choose what you want to do. So that's really important to remember at the very outset of that. Whatever I say isn't relevant to your decision, albeit I can help you to talk about what you might want to try. Yeah. So that's one thing. The training, of course, it's not here's a manual, good luck, go in the room, answer a call. It's a very intense training program, and it's over a number of weeks, and it's, hours work, probably 40 hours or so, I guess, is the sort of the standard training part. And then you go into the room and then you get support and you get mentored through. But it helps you to create this sort of almost framework in your head of how do I engage in a conversation that is going to be the most powerful. And the other thing as well that has taught me how to remain strong, or, create that mental strength, is through the journey of my children. And I didn't even talk about that in this conversation. And, my eldest daughter has struggled with serious mental illness, and to the point that, she was in hospital for 4.5 years with her mental health. And that was hard, and it was hard for her and it was hard for us. But most importantly, we remembered the change in terms of what to do. And even now, she still struggles to a degree, was to stop trying to fix her and just listen and support. Yeah. And that's what we all need, actually. So I protect myself. I look after myself. I set boundaries around conversations. Yeah. And I know those boundaries. And a lot of people, sadly, they don't set those in play, which is then when people become, we talk about empaths, we talk about people who are overloaded with emotion. And that's often because the boundaries aren't clear. I don't look after and prioritize me in those conversations. So I hope that sort of gives an insight, but it's a learned experience. I'll be honest with you. A lot of the stuff that I talk to, and when I do these podcasts, or when I do conversations, and when I stand on stages or share stories, I'm always very hyper conscious of the fact that I've made so many mistakes. And you learn through those. Yeah,
I think like the mental health training. So obviously I have been trained by one of your colleagues, and I am a mental health first aider for Event Space. And the things that you just said then about like boundaries and that kind of stuff, like all that training that came through, it was amazing to then go back to work. I had a little part-time job in a warehouse as well. And I told them as well, I was like, just to let you know, I've just received some training. I'm a mental health first aider. And some of the guys that I was having conversations with that seemed fine on the outside, should I say, were coming up to me. And actually then I was like, oh, just to let you know. And they were like, and then they just started opening up. Yeah. And then they were talking to me. And I was like, wow, this is really powerful. Because it wasn't then just happening with one person. There was like a second and a third and a fourth all within like 2 days. And I was like, holy cow, this is really powerful. And I love the training. I think not only did the training give me the tools to have those conversations, for me, it helped me as well. I think we're all trying to still figure ourselves out every day, right? And be the best mental health that we can possibly give ourselves. And I think it was just fantastic, and would urge all, and I mean, is it not law yet that every business should have, in the same way there's a first, I know this is a bit cheesy, but you know, everyone has a first aid kit in the staff canteen. Why does every business not have a mental health first aider?
That's a really good question. Well, and just to simplify those thoughts, it isn't mandatory, so it doesn't have, we don't have to have them. There is, there's people out there at the moment, so it's a little bit of a fragmented space. There's people out there who are saying it's not working, it doesn't help, it doesn't support. But what you've just shared is really powerful, and that's where I get my frustration often is people say it doesn't work, it's not a pro. But if you're having one conversation with somebody who would never talk to anybody, that's working.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. So, I think the biggest challenge we face with mental health first aid as a model is most people say, I don't want to be a mental health first aider. But then if you ask people, would you like to learn how to support your family members or your children better or your community?
Yeah.
And they say, of course I would. We say, we don't have to be a first aider. It's not like you're running around with a badge on your arm saying, I'm a mental health first aider, or a little, health sign on you, which says this is, you can learn and the skills are so powerful. And the majority of people that come on the training will also say, everybody should do this training.
Yeah.
Because it's powerful for all.
Yeah.
It's so that's one thing I think we need to sort of change, is the way that we perceive this thought. It's not a training that's just you have to do this and then hopefully nobody will ever need you. Mm-hmm. It's a training that you use because you're going to use it every day.
Yeah. Absolutely. Are there any sort of daily habits, maybe like if you could just give us like one or two habits that you do that helps you with your mental health? But like, I mean, I'm sure there's,
you want to ask this question?
I'm sure there's a few. But
sure?
just if you could literally if you could sort of wave a magic wand and give everyone the power to just do this one habit every day, what would that habit be?
Mine is very focused on mobility and activity.
Okay.
So I think of something we use in training in mental health, a thing called the stress container. And it's really important if you sort of visualize this thought of how much stress do I have? So now when I'm training people, I often ask the question of, what's your stress level right now? And it's usually at the beginning of the day. So, if somebody's saying my stress at the beginning of the day is 10, I'm really worried, right? If somebody's saying it's a 3, then I'm thinking, okay, that's good. But actually one thing we need to do is think about how we manage that container proactively versus reactively. So for me, what is it I do? So on the 1st of January, 2025, I set myself a positive intention that I would do 12,000 steps every single day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I've done it every single day since. Now, that means I get creative at times because I can't just always get up and go for a walk.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes, and the experience I always give is when I'm doing training, we take breaks. It's a 10-minute break. And it's like, then I might set a challenge in there and go, see how many steps you can do in 10 minutes. Right. Because a lot of people say, I don't have time to do the steps. And of course, I talk about mobility, and I know there's a lot of people out there who struggle with mobility. So I'm not saying everybody should just get up and move, because if it's not possible, then, or if you're injured, or if, but movement's really important in some capacity. It could be just as simple as moving from this room to another room.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as opening the back door and going and sitting in the garden.
Yeah.
But at least you're moving away from, a lot of people sit in front of their computer for 8 hours a day, don't breathe, don't take a break, sit there and eat their lunch, and it doesn't help. It really hurts. So that thing about steps for me was always focused on, I'm not doing it for anybody else. I'm doing it for me, which actually the byproduct of me doing that for me is, guess what? Everybody gets a good version of me. Everybody gets, when they ask questions, they get a response. I don't feel overwhelmed constantly. I feel less pressure. When I'm out on my little walks or runs or whichever way it means I'm doing it, I'm thinking about things that are important to me. I'm thinking about, what should I send as an email, or who should I talk to, or what am I doing today? So that's been my biggest go-to. My diet and my behaviors around, I struggle with food and sometimes alcohol too, and not in an excessive way, but, I can definitely tell when my mood's shifting and when things are changing. So, then I might be sat down a bit more and reaching for the unhealthies, but I still sit with 12,000 steps a day. And that's what I'm doing. And I think my average for last year, without sort of, I feel like I'm showing off when I say it, because then people looking at it go, bloody hell, how do you do that?
No, we must celebrate that. 'Cause that's
I
good,
averaged
man.
18,000 steps last year, every
Wow,
day.
that's
So,
fantastic.
that for me is, it may sound excessive and it's well beyond the sort of the recommended daily, although the recommended daily is a fictitious number. It doesn't really, they say 10,000 steps a day. But you know what, for me, that helps.
You're a keen runner as well, aren't you?
Yeah.
Can you put those steps into the run as well? Is that okay?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Movement. It's
Movement
a
in general.
movement. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a keen runner, but I don't run as much now because
Okay.
I actually fell in love with walking
Okay.
and being outside, and that's what it's about for me. So if I'm going for a run, that's great. If I'm not too bothered. If I used to be quite obsessed. I used to do about 1,200 miles a year running. So now I'm probably doing about 300 to 400, but about 15 million steps. No, I'm joking. I don't know what the step. I know I did.
Yeah.
I think last year I did about 3,500 miles walking, steps, run, whatever you call it.
Matt, you do so much for others. Like, how do you show yourself some love? Like,
How do I show myself some love?
I think we all need to show ourselves more love.
Yeah.
That's definitely something I learned through through therapy and bits and pieces. Is to home in on that. So, what do you do for that?
That's a really good and deep question, and I think I've surrounded myself with some really good people,
Yeah.
and I find it really hard to get positive feedback. As a lot of us do actually. When somebody says you've done a great job, or somebody says, well, I'm really pleased, or I'm really happy, I find it really hard to take that. I was having a conversation with one of my mates last week.
Yeah.
I feel, well, there's a couple of things. The love thing is really important, but I think one of the most important things that I talk about very openly is this thing around loneliness.
Yes.
So sometimes people say, I really want to spend some time alone. It's nice because then I can look after myself and I can indulge in the things I love to do, which is great. But for me, I struggle with that a lot because although I like being on my own, I'm very comfortable in my own space.
Yeah.
I also struggle with that feeling of loneliness and disconnection. And on the outside, you'd say, well, he's got loads of friends, or he's out with his mates for a walk that day, and then he meets another guy for breakfast, and then, all the different things that go, but it doesn't make me feel less lonely. I think there's a bigger piece around connection. And I think love comes from feeling like you matter to somebody.
Okay.
And so I've struggled with that over the years a lot, and I'm starting to find my way to it. So yeah, there's a lot of work in progress. Like everything though, I'm not the completed thing, and to complete yourself means that's it, right? You've done it. It's not like, boss level and we go through the levels to get there. It's just a continuous progression. And that's what I'm learning.
That's lovely. Thank you for sharing that.
And I love you, Dave. So,
I love you too.
thank you.
I think it's important to show, each other love in the same way that I teach my 9-year-old daughter love and respect every day.
Yeah.
When she has those heated conversations in the mornings of, please get my toast, or please can you get me a drink? Sometimes the please isn't always there, or whatever, or comes down from upstairs and she's in a mood. It's kind of, in that moment going, love and respect.
Yeah.
From the two people, your mum and your dad, that love you the most,
Yeah.
maximum love and respect. Don't forget that. And she's like, yeah. So
Yeah. There's not enough of it at the moment. I think we've become too consumed with busyness. And, another area of interest and importance to me is this thing about kindness. Be more kind. And we saw that a little bit, didn't we? Sadly, when we lost people over the years, and, be kind was sort of that movement. I think when we get too busy, we forget the important things, those small little gifts. And I sort of intentionally, I know you follow me a lot on LinkedIn and social, and I intentionally set out sort of a plan of how do I communicate my LinkedIn posts this year. And, first one is on a Wednesday, there's always an amazing human, and I like to celebrate a person. I like to say this person's, an amazing person, follow them, listen to them, and it's not me promoting businesses. That's just me saying, I love the people that I get the connections to. And then I celebrate, kindness, positivity. It's such a difficult world. And there are so many negative conversations. We need to do a bit more of that. How do we help and support each other positively? And that's something that I am really passionate about. And I want to sort of keep promoting. It's, it doesn't mean we're not going to have a bad day. It doesn't mean we're having easy lives. It just means we need to pull positives in as well. And
Yeah.
it's hard, isn't it, to sort of see that at times. It feels a bit depressing when you put the news on, or when you read comments
Yeah.
on social media, and
Yeah.
people have, we're very quick to complain, we're very slow to praise.
Yeah.
And that would be
Absolutely.
my sort of observation.
I think, you mentioned about the, sorry, how many steps was it? 12,000?
12,000 a day.
12,000 a day.
Yeah.
I think it would be really nice to give there's so many things you could do. You say, if you could do a top 3 tips.
Yep.
So you're saying, right, number 1, 12,000 steps a day. Give me a number 2 and a number 3, please.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have to be number 1, 12,000 steps. Some form of movement, I would say.
Movement. Okay.
Yeah.
Tip number 1, movement.
Move more. If you're able
Yes.
to move more, just focus and prioritize that. If you do 1,000 steps a day, try for 2. If you do 3, try for 4.
Yes.
Just a little bit more. And it's that you will incrementally gain something by doing that. Second one is connection. Don't delay that message. Don't delay that conversation. Don't delay that thought. If you think, for anybody that's listening to this, if you are listening still, think about that person right now who you haven't spoken to for a little while, who hasn't messaged you, and whether or not you feel, well, they haven't messaged me, I'm not going to message them. Change that attitude. Just message them. Send them a message. I was doing some training just the other day, and in between, we had a day in between. So it was a first day, and then we had a day off, and then a second day. But the day in between, a friend of mine, or one of the delegates, he was actually a friend of mine, he messaged a few people that he hadn't spoken to for a while. And he brought that back into the conversation on the second day. And what was really powerful was he said they came back and they were really grateful. So this thing about negative, change it, make it positive. Just send a message, checking in. How are you? Haven't seen you for a while. Doesn't take too long.
Yeah.
Please don't think you have to invest weeks of your life doing it. That's my second one.
Yeah.
And the third one is kindness in all directions. And that's kindness to others.
Yeah.
But most importantly, kindness to ourselves.
Yeah.
We are absolutely beating ourselves down constantly because we're feeling like we're not doing enough. We're not succeeding. We're not successful. We're not able to bring and provide. I really want people to feel that actually kindness starts here with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are struggling, the kindest thing you can do is say, I'm going to get some help, or I'm going to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And so those to me are the most important things, that kindness, although the messaging and the small gifts of gratitude are really important. But yeah, those would be my key tips. And a cup of tea tends to fix it.
Yeah. A hot beverage. Now, outside of the world of sort of mental health things, what puts a smile on your face? What are you doing with your time?
Well, you know what? I'm one of these people who I smile quite a lot, and it costs a lot as well. So, I might as well get the teeth out. If I'm invested in it, I might as well get them out.
Sure.
But, I genuinely try to smile as much as I can. I love comedy. I'm really big on comedy.
Okay.
I love, my daughters, they love horror films, and, I can watch them but sometimes I'm just thinking, if you look on Netflix or any of the other channels, streaming channels, the majority of their films are all negative, horrible, beat 'em up films. And I'm just like, just where are all the comedies we need nowadays? I know comedy has its own place. So yeah, definitely comedy. I try to go to comedy as often as I can.
Yeah.
Time dependent, ticket dependent. I just went recently to see Harry Enfield in Oxford, which was amazing because I grew up with Harry Enfield. It was like my staple thing of I think it was a Friday night. It's like Harry Enfield and Chums.
Yeah.
So it was just fantastic just to watch him. And actually what was really nice was the origins of his characters.
Yeah.
So he sort of told the stories of where they came from, and
Yeah.
Kevin the teenager.
Oh,
and,
behind it. Oh, that's really nice.
Really
yeah.
good. Yeah. So I do love my comedy. So that's my thing. Yeah. My dad sends me lots of jokes, which is nice. Maybe not all appropriate.
What's the best advice you've ever been given?
Best advice I've ever been given. I think for me, I don't really remember advice from many people over the years that stuck. I always think of managers as, they're people who should have a better awareness of their role. And I don't really remember many of them being that supportive, albeit, it was driven by objectives and targets. Best advice, I think, is, from a number of people, especially in the world of mental health and wellbeing, is, it's that kindness to self. So to me, that's really important. Be kind to yourself. It's too easy to beat yourself down. But also be true and be honest. And I think what happened that day when I lost my job was I then all of a sudden realized that actually what I was doing wasn't real. I was pretending. I was. So now having the ability to say, you know what, this is who I am, and this is why. And I catch myself constantly saying things like, I feel really lucky to have gone through these. Well, it's not really lucky when you think what actually has happened.
Yeah.
And I catch myself saying, I'm telling the truth. I'm telling the truth, because I feel like a lot of people might look at it and go, all the stories you're sharing, surely they're not true. Surely they're fake, because nobody talks about these things.
Yeah.
So when I tell stories of experiences, and when I tell some, you know, and I've got some really horrendous experiences, especially around sort of close to me connections.
Yeah.
When I'm telling those stories, all I can hear in my head is going, they don't believe you. They don't believe you. But I'm still going to remain true to myself. And I sort of say, this is really what's happening. And this is really what's going, because I'm sharing what others wish they could share. And so for me, that tip is about the truth and honesty point.
Yeah.
And it makes you more authentic.
Yeah.
I don't need to make up fables, and I don't need to make up stories, because I got so many real ones, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't embellish those stories.
Yeah.
And if anything, I dilute the story, because I feel I don't know if everybody can hear it.
Okay. That's interesting.
It is.
You dilute it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I dilute it to a version of the story that I think is palatable to others.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I told everything about everything, I think people would be scared witless about something.
Okay.
And that's how I sort of interpret things.
Yeah. That's you gauging it, right? Yeah. Okay.
Pick your audience. And,
Yeah.
you know, there's some people who can cope with some of the things, and there's others who will struggle with that.
Yeah. Is there anyone out there that you follow that inspires you? Maybe it's a TED talk that you've seen, or someone that you follow regularly that inspires you in your current sort of work life, or even just life.
Well, I think, you know what, my work is in adult. You know, I'm very much focused on, you know, businesses and companies and supporting adults in whatever capacity that I can. The people who, and I have to say, you know, this isn't blowing anything. This is a real sort of assessment of where I'm at right now. My focus for the future, I'm hopeful of doing more around young people's support, you know, because I've seen that through my own daughters and my own children, you know, my own children. And I think that there is a wonderful community called Inclusion Education.
Yeah.
And those people now, they're not famous people. They're not the big, you know, I'm not really into, I'm not a sycophant. I'm not sort of, you know, loving all of the celebrity sort of stuff out there. It doesn't do anything for me. You know, they've got their reasons, they've got their stories, which is fine. You know, crack on.
Yeah.
But the real people doing it, there's a few of them out there, and, you know, I'm proud to be connected to them. Cheryl Edwards, Marie Greenhalgh, you know, Catherine Mole, who I went to school with. She's doing amazing work with Dingley's Promise, the inclusion education people. But they're people who do selfless things for others. And that's what I find really, really passionate, you know, and love, because I think that that's something so powerful, you know, and they genuinely want to change things for the future.
Yeah.
You know, we're in a world right now where it's so hard to change direction quickly.
Yeah.
You know, we're so tied up in whatever it is, and laws, regulations, and everything else. They are actually making a difference now by doing what they do. And inclusion education is, you know, it's an environment. And I did a number of events with them, and I've got very close and friendly with them. And I always remember coming out of them, and I'd say to people, if I brought them in, like other businesses, I'd say, I guarantee you one thing: when you walk out there, you'll feel happier. And people did. They went in, they saw what they saw. Excuse me. They saw what they saw, and they come out happy. And you're thinking, wouldn't that be a great machine?
Absolutely.
You know, we've got a place where you can go to, and you come out and you're going to be, I guarantee it, you're going to be happier if you come out of that environment, because you're going to see things that you were not expecting to see. And I don't mean it's like an X-Men's Mansion sort of approach. You know, it's not like, but people who societally have been left behind or given up on. And so, so those are my ones, really, I would say. And they'll hopefully hear this, and if they do, they're more than deserving of those accolades as well, and they get a lot of recognition.
Okay, thank you for that.
That's right.
Before we end with the quickfire round, I'd like you to something that you touched on at the start. So the whole human something is happening, coming soon.
Whoa.
Walk, run, explore, live better on the 1st of May. Talk to me about that.
Well, it's not started. Well, it's being launched on the 1st of May.
Yes.
There's actually an event that I've planned, which is a 31-day event. And so it's taking place over the course of 31 days, consecutive days. Starts on the 10th of September, which is World Suicide Prevention Day.
Yes.
So makes sense. Finishes on the 10th of October, which is World Mental Health Day. So it made perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's aligned to the Baton of Hope. So I already mentioned the Baton of Hope earlier. So it's sort of fundraising for the Baton of Hope, raising awareness for the Baton of Hope. And Whole Human to me is about connecting communities.
Mm-hmm.
So through whatever, that could be meetings, that could be walking, that could be movement, whatever it is. And so, yeah, so the event actually is I'm going to exceed the 12,000 steps a day target. And I'm going to do 1 million steps in a month, which works out on average roughly 32,500 steps a day.
Wow.
So, and I was doing a little bit of research earlier, and cause obviously doing all the marketing and all the sorts of publicity for this.
Yeah.
And on average, the average UK adults about 5,000 to 6,000 steps a day. So it's about 5 times the daily average. But what I'm really excited about with it is I'm going to create lots of different events.
Yeah.
Lots of different activities.
Yeah.
I'm also going to be working as well during the same thing. So it's not going to be downing tools for a month.
Yeah.
And I just want to invite as many people in.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to come for a walk with me, you don't have to commit to 1 million steps. Just come for a walk.
Yeah.
Get outside, have a conversation, meet another person, connect to somebody else. Because being a solopreneur, as I am now, you know, and I built Simpler, but then I sort of changed things over the last 12 months. But being solopreneur also brings about isolation. And so there's a lot of communities where there are people who work for themselves, or they're freelance, or they're, you know, they're based at home, and they have nobody to talk to, or they have nobody to do things with. So let's just create this movement of, you know, literally movement, you know, get together, meet with each other. So I'll be doing 7 a.m. walks. I'll be doing 8 a.m. walks. I'll be doing 10 walks a day, probably. I've got to do 4.5 to 5.5 hours of moving a day.
Yeah.
So that's going to be fun. But I've got some really good plans as well. I want to go and walk around the Isle of Wight. I want to go and do some part of the Tarka Trail.
Nice.
So you know what? I'm really motivated for it. And if it helps one person because they come and they walk with me or they have a chat with me, do you know what? I've done it. That's the target. You know, one person.
Amazing. So watch this space. So keep an eye on what the LinkedIn.
Yeah, it'll be over LinkedIn and social. I've got a TikTok channel as well, which is quite interesting. So it will be sort of, there'll be, I don't know.
How's that going?
Awful. Please follow the TikTok channel. It's just Whole Human. That's what it's called. HOLM.
Okay.
How do you spell Whole Human? So yeah, well, I say awful. I'm just not really a TikTok-y person. You know, I like watching some of the videos. My daughter showed me the funnies. But you know what? I wanted to have something that I could just post, you know, regular updates to.
Yeah.
That wasn't just LinkedIn. Because I know I post a lot in LinkedIn as well. And, you know, I don't want everybody to be consumed by the feed of, you know, Matt's going for another walk and he's had another walk. Oh, he's been out for 4 walks today. Don't think people need to really see that so much. Just know I will be doing lots of walks. As long as my legs hold. I'm hoping for some sponsorship from a foot brand, footwear brand. You know,
sure.
So if anybody knows any sportswears sort of contacts, let me know. I'm going to need some solid foundational shoes for movement.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, look, that all sounds amazing. Look forward to seeing and hearing more about it. Absolutely. Look, let's finish with a quick fire round.
Go for it.
So, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Ketchup or mayonnaise?
Ketchup.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Mac or Windows PC?
Mac.
Yes. Nike or Adidas?
Oh, Hoka.
Hoka, yes, that's a running brand, right?
Oh, yeah.
I own a pair. Morning person or night owl?
Morning all the way.
Yeah?
Yep.
Most used app on your phone?
LinkedIn.
Okay. What's your shower song?
Oh.
Or bath song? Depends if you're a bath or shower guy.
Oh, it's definitely a shower.
Okay.
So shower over bath.
What's playing?
Oh God. You know what? It depends on my mood. I'm trying to think. It's probably a bit. Well, this is going to.
We've got a positive vibes tree over here.
Have you?
So
yeah, it might be a bit of Bee Gees actually. There's sort of there's something in there. I'm not going to say "Staying Alive" because that's probably really weird for a shower song, isn't it? You know, sort of like symbolic. No, I think maybe a bit of Bee Gees. It's usually some cheesy sort of sing along a song. My daughter's tried to keep me up to date with the latest stuff, but yeah, that doesn't always work.
And the final question is, if you had to stand up and talk right now for 10 minutes to a crowd of people with no script, what would it be? What would you be talking about? Or is this
outside of what I do, I would say I used to be really into all sports, so I could probably stand up and talk about sports for some time. I would say I would talk about Premier League football, but being an Everton fan, it's been a very roller coaster ride. So maybe sports. I think mental health and neurodiversity. I could talk for days. So 10 minutes. That's my introduction. That's the first part of my introduction. But yeah, sports. I would say I love sport. And I played it for all my life, and I continue to do it. So, yeah.
Matt, thank you very much for being on this podcast. Appreciate you, and look forward to seeing more of you and hearing more about you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.